Hey guys, this is Tara, your paper trail specialist, and I wanted to go over a couple things. Um, this book right here is from a company called LearnVest. They do have a they do have a IG page, which is at LearnVest, but they changed their name recently. But when I was working at the UPS store many moons ago, I was a manager over there, and I was starting to get really serious about saving money. So I printed this thing out, and it's called Learn to Invest, the Guide to Money in Your 30s, right? Now, when I printed it out, it was in 2014, 2015, and it goes over a couple things like the basics on how to start saving, financial focuses for saving your money in your 30s, starting off with your budget, and money hacks for every 30-something, and how to have conversations with your loved ones, your spouse, and or your kids on what to do, how to have conversations about it in your future. So, first thing, a lot of people around the 30s, they feel like they're supposed to have certain goals. Like you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have a house, picket fence, and that really doesn't really happen around these days. A lot of my peers are still single, childless, traveling the world, or starting to settle down now. Now, in my case, I have a 15-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So one's getting ready to go to college. He's a sophomore. And because of his education, he is on a fast track to going into college now. One of the things that I faulted at was not being financially prepared to put him into college. My parents did the same thing for me because they said, hey, you're smart. You should go ahead and get an educational scholarship. My sister, she had a basketball scholarship. So those were the means, or those are the ways that my parents put me through college. I actually had to put myself through it. And one of the biggest things that I needed to work on is getting my son prepared for school and being financially in a place to put him into college. So this was a gut punch for me. The first part, it says, typically through financial goals, Americans in their 30s revolve around the lifestyle and building for the future. Many are just really realizing how much it adds up. That's true. 63% of people in their 30s are making between $70,000 and $100,000 annually. And they still don't feel good about their finances. Now, we have this unsaid rule of how we're supposed to be by that age. So I realized by the time that I was 30, I didn't have it. I didn't have the financial backing. I didn't know how to budget. I wanted to budget, but I was also, again, working at the UPS store. Yes, it can be a great career if you are the owner, or if you're in a location where you're able to be paid the way that you should. Sorry, let me readjust that. So around this time, shit really does get real. When you are retiring, the age is in your 60s. But at your 30s, you're over halfway there. You're probably more self-aware than you were at 26. And you're more than likely making more money than you did when you were in your 20s. There's a quick guide that goes over how to start saving up your money, plus advice and some tools and some tips to help you be able to make progress. Now, before I continue to get started or to get really into it, I want to say thank you for everybody who's here. Players Performance Plus, thank you so much. Courtney, thank you so much for being here. some of the basics, sorry, that's my brother's dog barking right now. One of the biggest things that you have to do is to focus on eliminating your credit card debt. Quick story. My first credit card I got when I was 18 or 19 years old. And my dad told me it was just going to be for gas. Cool. First two payments paid for gas, started to deal with my credit. It started going up. Yay. But then my friend at the time had a birthday. And I wanted to splurge. I didn't have the discipline to say, this is the max that I'm able to spend, because beyond that, I can't pay it back. Right after I maxed out my credit card, I was pregnant with my oldest, and I couldn't work. So when that happened, all the bills started to stack up, the interest started compiling, and I had to close the account. Well, the credit card company closed it for me because I couldn't pay for it. So with that, I had to start rebuilding my credit, and it took a couple of years, but now I'm in a good place again because I had discipline to be able to say, this is how much I'm supposed to spend this month, and I can't go past that. So it kind of goes into budgeting, paying off your highest interest rate debit first, or your debt first. So if you have 2 or 3 different credit cards or 2 or 3 different things, bills that you're falling behind, the goal is to take care of the biggest one first and allow that snowball effect to say, okay, if I'm putting away $200 a month to pay for this credit card bill, once that's done, I can take that same $200 and take care of all the other smaller bills and knock it out as fast as possible. Now, consider devoting the majority of your extra funds to getting rid of your credit card debt, even if you have to pay the minimum on your other debt. So that goes back to the $200 going here versus putting all of your money to pay for the small things and still not have enough to save up to take care of the larger debt. Now, for that, I was in school. I went to school for forensic accounting. You can check out the explanation on my YouTube page, tarakspecializes, and it goes over a little bit of the background of what forensic accounting is. In a nutshell, it is basic accounting, knowing the numbers, knowing how to maintain and budget and help people with their financial counseling. But at the other end of it, I also have the law side. So if I needed to go, or if I desired to go into the government, I can start doing that. So I have a good background in finances, but that didn't mean that I was good at maintaining my own. The school is a lot. I have a amount of debt that I have to pay off for my school, but that goes back into putting a lump sum towards the larger bill and being consistent with that consistency, and then working my way down to the smaller ones. The next thing is establishing an emergency fund. So that is basically saving up for at least 6 months of your net income, and that's more of a cushion. So if something happens with your job, with COVID, obviously a lot of the jobs started to dissolve. A lot of people had to find different ways to make money. So the emergency fund would have been a great standpoint to say, okay, this is how much money I have. If you're doing anything as far as freelancing or gig work, like Amazon Flex, or if you're driving, or even if in my case, I'm doing accounting. So it really is based off of the volume of people that I work with quarterly. So with that, I have to be able to save more in case I don't have all of the people that are coming in that I'm expecting to monthly, quarterly, or even yearly. Now, there are obvious reasons for this, but one of the lesser clear implications is that not having an emergency fund may hinder your ability to get out of your credit card debt or any other debt that you do have. That makes plenty sense. If you don't have it, you can't pay it, right? I had this one call a couple of years ago from a debt collection agency, and this was before they started to put in all of the laws and say, you can't intimidate the people that you're wanting to pay off the bills. But one person said, well, when are you going to be able to pay it? I said, well, when I can. You can't get mad at me, or I know it's your job to collect the money, but at the same time, if I don't have it, I can't give it. So I started working on having an emergency fund so I can stop avoiding them. And now that we're in our 30s, I'm in my mid to late 30s. I can feel it in the mornings. Me and Aspirin Cream are pretty good friends by now, but we have to start focusing on our retirement accounts. That's your 401k, that's your Roth IRA. So by the age of 35, the expectation is for you to be able to put at least 15% of your salary into your retirement. Now, I have mixed feelings about the IRAs and all of that, because some of them, or some of the investment programs, you'll have to be taxed before you put it in the money, put it into the account, and some of them you're actually able to get taxed after, or when you start to pull it out of your account. So you have two different options there. We can look at that in a later video. But again, by the age of 35, you should start putting at least 15% of your salary into a savings account. Okay? Let's see. All right. So in your 30s, you should set a financial foundation. And if you haven't already, that includes your emergency fund, your retirement accounts, and no credit card debt. Then focus on building it from this point on. You still have plenty of time. You still have plenty of working years left. The best thing to do is just to set a little bit aside every day, even if it is the change from your pocket. As long as it's specifically set and not used for anything else, it's a great start to begin working on the idea of maintaining the same thing. This money is for this. You can make it into a little coin. By the time that this is full, this is going to go into my savings account, or by the time that this is full, this can go into my vacation time. By this time is full, I can put it towards getting my new home. So each time that you put a little bit aside, make sure that it's a goal attached to it versus just saying that once I run out of cash, I can use this instead. Let's see. Okay, so another thing that you can pay attention to is finding a way to do multiple things at once. That is basically narrowing down all of the, hey Brian, all of the income that you would use for eating out or watching Hulu, or if you're really not at home, Netflix on in your home, or things like that. Those are expendable things that you can really live without. You don't have to eat out every day. You can look at a YouTube video. I'm sure Courtney will not do that, and that's okay. We love her still. But we're able to find ways to save money any way that you can, because the bigger goal is further down the road. You have to have some type of cushion, so when you do retire, you don't have to rely on Social Security. You wouldn't have to rely on pulling money out of your savings account before it's ready. So the goal really is for progress and not perfection. So if something happens, or if you really want to be able to do something for yourself as a splurge every now and then, you definitely can do that. And that's okay. But the goal is for you to continue to be progressive, to continue to progress, and not to do it all at once. Okay? Now, here are some more specific areas for you to focus on. We can go back to paying off the debt. Now is the time to be saving for your future and not paying off your past. So hopefully you've got your credit card debt in check. Still, we're going to go back to the credit cards because it's really important. When you're able to get a credit card when you're 16 and 18, but you don't really know, or you're not specifically taught how to maintain and budget. Yes, you'll have a class in high school that's really one subject out of the entire year, but if you don't have a handle and the discipline to be able to say, okay, this is how much I really have versus this is how much I want to spend, you will always and forever be in debt. And that's not something that you want to share or to give to your children later on. Feed and preserve your 401k. Now, a lot of jobs do offer the 401k, and some businesses even match what you put in, which is great. Find out what type of program your job has and see if you're able to maximize that so you can still have something left over. Think long term. Like I was saying earlier, some retirement saving plans will have you pay taxes now. So when you withdraw it, you won't have to deal with the taxes later. Or you have some programs where you will pay the taxes up front, but when you withdraw it, you won't have to deal with the taxes. Now, we have to learn the ins and the outs of interest. Simple interest is the percentage of that's multiplied by the amount and the length of time that you've promised to pay it back. So that's basically talking about a car loan. So when you buy a new car, you go through a finance department and they say, okay, well, this is how much money you put down, and this is what your credit score is. So according to your credit score and what you bring to the table, it will let you know how much you're going to be paying over the length of your car payments. Let's see. So if we're talking about a loan or we're talking about a basic savings account, the length of time that you leave the money in there untouched will show you how much your interest can compound. So it can either work against you or for you. A few years ago, I had an account with a bank called Ally, A-L-L-Y. It's an online bank, and with that, you don't have to go into a brick and mortar. You don't have to stand in line, and that's very convenient. On the other end, it's painfully inconvenient because if you have cash or if you work in a place that's a cash basis type deal, you have to find a way to get the cash into a check, to take a picture of the check and deposit it. If you don't have that access, you can't do money orders most of the time, or you have to mail it in, which is very inconvenient. It can take longer for the cash to become liquid in your debit card. So the brick and mortar will work out better in a lot of cases. So that's one thing. The other thing that I liked about Ally is that they had a great interest rate for your savings and your checking account. So each month you'll have money compounded from what's already in there and is left untouched. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I started working with Ally. Now, as the economy started changing, my interest rate started to drop. And that's something that you have to pay attention to very, very closely, because if you're expecting to have a certain amount each month and the interest rate changes, you have to pay attention to what's going in and what's going out. Okay? Now, while we think that financial planning should be painless, hardly anything is just a set it and forget it. So that goes back to knowing what your interest rate is per month, so you can know what's supposed to be coming out per month. Okay? Let's see. Now, out of everyone in their 30s, 65.4% in 2014-15, they were considering and working on building an emergency fund. 60.4% of them were contributing to their retirement fund. 46.7% were preparing to buy a house. Now, I actually expected it to be more because it was an unset rule that by 30 or in your mid to late 30s, everybody was supposed to have a house. And if you didn't have a house, you were a failure. That's really not the case, because less than half of the people in 2014 that were in their 30s, mid 30s, were still trying to prepare to buy a house. They didn't have a house yet. And now with the COVID and a lot of people's financial situations are changing, I'm pretty sure that this percentage is lower now. 38.1% were focusing on investing. 36.1% were paying off credit card debt, and 30.1% were paying off student loans. I am in a lot of those places right now. Now we're going to talk about budgeting. Budgeting. It sounds good until you see the numbers. But don't let that deter you from trying to still save. Okay? A budget is a great first step in reaching your long-term goals. And by itemizing each purchase, I know that it's not fun or even really sustainable, but we have to be able to work from number one. And it requires a little bit of number crunching up front, but eventually you'll be able to deal with that each month with no issue. Now, we have to look at your monthly fixed costs. That includes your housing, your rent or your mortgage, all of your utilities, your cell phone bill, if you have a gym membership, fixed transportation cost. So that talks about your gas. If you're using Uber or Lyft, which kind of gets a little expensive after a while, you have to consider that as well. And childcare. That is how much it is per child per month. If you have to pay per week or bi-weekly, those are your fixed costs because you know how much it's going to be each month. Okay. Now your financial goals will have to go into paying down your credit card debt, building an emergency fund, paying off your student loans, and your 401k investments. Now, this is the part that I was most excited about because I don't add it in my budget, is the non-monthly expenses. So that's the quarterly taxes that you would have to pay if you do qualify. Your auto registration fees each month. You know, you get that little letter in the mail around your birthday saying that you have to get the new sticker on your stuff, you know. Your annual insurance premiums for your life insurance, your health insurance, your school tuition. If I was more wise during that time, I would have known how much or planned better on how much I had to spend per month so I can reduce my student debt at the end of my studies. Now, this year, I don't know about you, but Christmas, all y'all gonna be getting a text from me as your gift. So we have to think about all of those things. And with your non-monthly expenses, try to divide them all by 12. So each month, you can put a little bit aside for the Christmas fund, a little bit aside for your school tuition, a little bit aside for your insurance if you're going to be paying at the beginning of the following year. Now you have to start off with your monthly take-home pay. And that's your amount. That's the amount that hits your bank account after all the taxes, your 401 contributions, and any other things that'll come out like your health insurance or if you're getting reimbursed for anything. Then you have to subtract your fixed rates, your fixed expenses, your financial goal contributions, and a month of your non-monthly expenses, okay? So for me, I have my car insurance, I have some utilities, I have a phone bill, I have the internet, and thankfully none of my kids are in daycare, so I don't have to worry about that budget. But then I have to think about my credit card debt, how much I'm going to be putting on my student loan payment. I own my car, so I don't have to think about car payments either. So I have a pretty low budget of how much, or the bare minimum of what I need to pay to cover all those expenses over the year. After that, anything that's excess, anything above that is going to be your flexible spending. So we can include groceries in your flexible spending because sometimes you want to eat more, sometimes you may eat less. One day you may want chicken and rice, the other day you may want oxtails or lobster one day because you're just feeling it, I guess. All those things go into flexible spending because it's not the same amount each month. If you want to get a lunch while you're at work, if you need or want to get another pair of shoes or clothes for your kids, and if you want to just buy that extra movie on Amazon Prime, those are some of the expenses that you can set aside as you're flexible. And whatever you don't spend can automatically go into your savings. So, the next part is, oh, this is my favorite. This is what I say almost every video. Know your numbers. Know your numbers. Know your numbers, fam. Know your numbers. So this goes into your net worth. Okay? This is the sum total of your assets. That's your bank account balances, your savings, your investments, your car, anything else that you would be able to pay or you would be able to sell to get income. Minus all of your debts. That's your loans, your mortgage, your rent, your credit card debt, all that. So once you subtract your net worth or for your assets and your debt, that's how much your net worth is. Okay. And this is the easiest way to get a big picture perspective of all of your finances. Now, how much you make and spend a month sounds obvious, but to many people, regardless of your age, don't know how much money they have coming in and coming out. And that's really, really, really important. I say that in all of my videos. You have to know what's going in and you have to know what's going out. So just because you have a surplus or just because you don't have a notification that you've overdrawn doesn't mean that you can spend it. There is something that has to be dealt with prior to you feeling comfortable enough to do whatever you want to do with the rest of your money. The last thing that you have to look at is your credit score. Yes, it's a little scary to see those 3 numbers, but you also have to really think if you're able to deal with and see the credit score number and work on lessening the debt that you have, obviously your credit score is going to go up. But you have to get beside yourself. You have to stop getting beside yourself and say, okay, these are the things that I need to do because I know that there is something that I am shooting for. There's a goal that I'm trying to attain. And if I cannot do that, it's not because of everything else, it's because of me. Okay. So what I started to do, it was suggested to me to go to self.com. It's an app, actually. It's a self app, and you're able to create a personal loan. And it starts at $500 and it goes up to, I think, $250 or $2,500. And each month you're able to pay a small fee towards it. So for me, I paid $25 a month for my loan. And I was also able to, at one point, get a credit card to go along with it. So I have a credit card and I have a loan that will show on my credit report that I am able to start paying off things. And I promise you, this time last year to now, my credit went up over 100 points. I wasn't able to even go into a credit union to get a bank or get a bank account last year. And now I just qualified today for it. So just because I have a degree in accounting does not mean that I am in a place to say that I've made it. There are things that I'm still learning, and in what I'm learning, I'm sharing with you so we can walk through this together. Okay? So your credit score can determine not only what kind of credit cards you can be approved of, but it can also show you how expensive your mortgage and your car loans might be. So your total compensation package is your base pay, but does your employer also pay for disability insurance, life insurance, and like I was talking about before, matching your 401k contributions? There's this other portion called 529. It's a 529 plan, and it helps those who are working at a corporation that offers it to put money aside for college, for either your child or to help save so you can pay off your college loans. It's something that you can look into. 529 plan. Okay. Now, here's some money hacks for every 30-something. You have to get a proper perspective. You have to know the truth about your finances, and you can't be scared about it. That's real. That's real. That's the nuts and bolts of it. You can't be scared of what you don't know. And when you do find out where you're at, you can have a great place to start to help rebuilding your financial foundation. Now, the next thing is to negotiate. Spending less and saving more is great, but one of the most important ways that you can work towards financial freedom is by growing your income. Now, this is really good. This simply says make sure that you are earning what you're worth. I can stay there for a little bit longer if I wanted to. But because you are who you are and you are taking the time out to see this video, to see this IG live, that means that you are becoming more serious about having a great financial future. So maximizing your time, building relationships, and identifying opportunities and planning are crucial and critical to your personal growth. But most spend more time watching Netflix. Your time is an asset and you have to invest it accordingly. We have not had things to do for months. Some people learned how to crochet, some people learned how to bake cakes, some people learned how to do hair. Those are great pastimes, but what are you doing with it? You can read a book all day, but what are you going to do with it? Are you going to implement what you learn, or is it going to be something that's just a good read? You have to maximize your time. Now, for me, I'm borderline a workaholic most times, to be honest with you. And although I feel like I maximize my time by working, there are things that I miss. I miss some opportunities because I'm working so much or not learning how to relax. So I have to work on investing my time into myself and investing my time into giving quality time to my children, giving quality time to my love, giving quality time outside of working, but at the same time, knowing when to say, okay, this is enough time relaxing. Let me get back to work. Or this is enough time focusing on this one thing. Let me go ahead and relax for a little bit. So maximizing your time, using your time wisely is very, very, very important. Now, here's a really cool tip. Find a favorite meal for just $10. What can you make for just $10? You can spend $10, $13 on just one sandwich, some fries, and a drink. Or you can get yourself a platter that you'll eat all in one sitting. What can you do to stretch your dollar? Now, I've been in a place where I had $7 to my name, and I was able to make a meal for $5 for 3 days. I had to learn how to stretch. I had to learn how to figure things out. So there are plenty of websites that you can look at. This is one of my favorites. There's a website where you can just type in the stuff that's in your pantry and it'll come up with recipes for you. It's so easy. Just take the time out to do some research. There's always ways to make it work. So be a boss. This is the last one on this page. If you still have money toxic friends, who put you in situations that encourage you to overspend or to strip you of control over your money, that's hard. Because you want to go and ball out, you want to go out, you want to spend time with your friends, you want to but at the end of the day, you spend all that money, but you can't pay your bills. Why? The people around you should be very much willing to say, okay, you don't even have to ask to go out. It's like, hey, you want to chill? We can make something to eat. Or what are you cooking? We can go over and watch a movie. I'd rather have friends in my life who are focused on building themselves and knowing that, you know what, I know that I'm being excessive. If I already know that I'm being excessive, there's no reason why I would put somebody that I care about in that position to be even worse off. So going back to my first example with my credit card, first off, I didn't say what my budget was. But at the same time, my friend at the time didn't perceive or acknowledge, hey, we're spending a whole lot right now. Are you good? So, because of those two things, I started off my 20s in a lot of debt. So, if you have people in your life that are not willing to encourage you to be wise with your income, you have to start putting yourself and your future first. Okay? Next. Oh, so the next one is to get healthy. With a lot of people at our age, we take our health for granted. So we still think that we can eat like we're 18, 19, 20 and not gain anything. And then you look down on the scale or try to put those same pants on and it don't fit like it's supposed to. That's not going to work. So you have to take your health into consideration. And that goes into your health and your life insurance. And if you're one, overweight, two, already have pre-existing conditions that you could have dealt with by now, your insurance rate is already going to be higher. I was looking at my information the other day and I made it into another bracket of life insurance. So if I started today, because I'm in my mid 30s, I'm 35, my insurance is higher than what I would have paid if I started last year. I would have been in a different bracket last year. So that's something to consider. You have to make sure that you stay on top of your health as well. Now, you know that you will never have enough money. And our lifestyle seems to be ever expanding as our incomes increase. So you have to stop feeling like tomorrow is the time to tackle your finances and take control of your money today. Okay? Now, my next one I really like is get creative. Overspending on clothing or other trends is a common downfall, but it's possible to be stylish on just about any salary if you think outside the box. Bruh, I am so frugal. I don't like spending anything. I don't like spending anything. Vic will tell you, he had to sit me down and say, you need to spend something for yourself. Nope, I don't want anything else. I don't want you to buy anything for you. I don't want you to buy anything for your kids. You need to get something for yourself. And it was the hardest thing because I don't spend money on me. This right here came from Ross. This was actually a gift from my mentor to Mill. I didn't spend anything on it. These earrings, these were a gift from my oldest son's aunt. I didn't spend a thing on it. These glasses were my splurge. These glasses. And I got 2 pair for $71. And that was because I splurged in a very frugal way. My glasses are usually $300 or $400. So I went to the cheapest route and I got some plastic frames that I wore for about 7 years. And to get these glasses took a lot for me. So I had to figure out a way to get creative during those times when I had the plastic frames to still try to look like somebody loved me. So you don't have to go to the Louis Vuitton or going to the mall each time to get clothes. There are ways to still look the part, feel the part without having to spend every penny you have. There's no reason for it. Why? Clothes are clothes to me, but that's another subject. Now, you can live the life you want, but not the life that you think that you can afford. There's a lot that goes into your overall financial wellness, but when you talk to a financial planner and or do the work, the footwork yourself, You can answer a lot of the questions that'll help you make progress. Okay. Now we're going to talk about love and money. If you have a partner, it is important to get on the same page about your money. And these are 6 money conversations that you should have, which are very, very, very important. You guys are about to start your lives together. My sister just got married. Woo, woo, woo. I'm so happy for her. And my cousin, she's engaged. She's about to go ahead and tie the knot. And there are some conversations that I know need to be had prior to your incomes merging. So the first one is earning. Do you both plan to have a job? Or is one going to school while the other one is working? Or are you guys both going to be working while one goes to school? Those are some of the things that you have to talk about. How long are you going to do your career? If you want kids, if you already have kids, how are you going to be taking care of them? Who's going to be taking care of them? How much is it going to be each month, each week? Now, the next one is spending. What are your priorities? Are you wanting to be an international traveler? Are you going to be taking care of an aging parent? What is the dollar amount above which you want to check in with each other before buying something? So in some cases, somebody could say, if it's over $50 or $200, just go ahead and give me a call so we can make sure that we have what we need for everything else. Versus, I spent $1,000 here for this new pair of shoes or this upgrade over here, where the income isn't going to be matching what's going out. So that's another conversation that you would have to have. Accounting, where you have to who is going to be keeping track of the budget, who's going to keep a track of the accounts and the overall net worth. Who or how are you going to divide what needs to be paid for month to month? Now, some would say, okay, well, whatever comes, or hey, we're just going to split it down the middle. But what happens if one person stops working? Is it still going to be split down the middle? Is it say, okay, well, because I have this amount of income, I'm able to take care of X, Y, and Z, and because you have this type of income, you can take care of A, B, and C. That's a very important component to any type of solid relationship, especially if you're sharing a space and financial responsibilities. Because, I'll give you an example. I was asking my dad about a bill in their home, and he was like, I don't know. Deborah takes care of it. That's cool because that's how they have it set up. Now, when I talked to my mom, she was saying, well, I pay everything up and then I add a little bit extra each month. So if something happens, we'll have a little bit of cushion. So that's a conversation that they had earlier on, possibly through trial and error. But I would suggest prior to anything serious happening to have that conversation. The next really important thing is saving. What are your goals to saving? How much do you want to save each month? How much do you want to have on hand? How much cash do you want to have just for spending? And after that, you got to wait. Now, would you be a natural saver or a natural spender? I don't like spending money unless it's a necessity first. I'd rather have all the bills paid up first, all the necessities paid up first, and whatever's left over, I'll consider that's mine. And that's a little bit backwards because there are times where there were more bills than what I had on me, but then I would get myself burnt out from working so hard that I didn't do anything for myself. So what I would suggest is to purposefully put something aside for you, just you, for you to spend for yourself. There's nothing worse than working 45, 50 hours a week and feeling like you have nothing to show for it, because everything that you spent your income on maxed out what you had. I'd rather you have $20 each pay period off to the side just so you can do something for yourself. I've been on the other side of being burnt out and resentful in some cases because I didn't have something that I chose to spend on something else and not look out for me as well. So I would be sure to put that in the budget at the top, because that is something that is needed for your self-care. Okay. Investing. Do you want to put money into the stock market? Right now, I feel like it's a really great time to put some type of money into a stock market exchange or in a stock. Start off with Robinhood. You don't have to buy a whole share. You can do a portion of the share, so you can still make money without having to put all of what it's $75 towards a stock when you only have 30. Put money aside. So when the interest comes from your dividends, yes, you can get dividends each month or each quarter. You can put it back into it, or you can put it back into your account so you can have money on hand. The last thing is building wealth. How will you make your money grow? How much will you need to retire comfortably or put your kids through college? What will your mindset be in the terms of how you spend your money? So that is a really, really, really big thing. I know that there have been marriages that ended because of poor money management. Poor money management. So those 6 things, let me go back over it again: earnings, spending, accounting, savings, investing, and building wealth are the things that you would have to, I would strongly suggest that you would have those conversations when you know that this is something that you're wanting to pursue together. Okay? All right. Next part. I'm almost done. Let's see how much time I got left. Oh, Lord. All right. So, in addition to getting on the same page with your partner, it's important to find out where your parents stand financially. It can be a tough role reversal, but start slow by finding out how to access the account balances, health insurance, and long-term care insurance, just to have an idea of how you started thinking financially. So if you've seen your parents only spend, but you didn't really see them save or have an idea on how to save, those are some components that you would have to look into further so you can get yourself in a proper financial standpoint. Okay. A few more family oriented areas to focus on is your will, your final will and testament. It is a legal document that spells out what should happen to all of your possessions when you pass. The living will is a healthcare directive. So if something happens to you and you're unable to communicate your wishes, that's what it's for. Both of them are extremely important, and I would much rather pass down land and income than to inherit a debt that I chose not to pay because I didn't want to know what I owed, or I ignored what I owed. A healthcare proxy is very critical. It goes over who's able to make those medical decisions for you when you're not able to. The last one I was touching on was the 529 plan. It's the best way and the best option for you to save for college. It does give you the flexibility and the tax benefits that a lot of people overlook, because they often make them more effective and wallet friendly for college savings vehicles. Now, life insurance is extremely important, even if you don't have kids. Life insurance is important to think about, because if a spouse isn't working and the earner passes away, it does take some time for the living spouse to get back into the workforce. And that's the same thing. If the spouse dies that isn't working and the earner is still working, the life insurance would allow them to have a foundation to make sure that the kids are taken care of while they're still working. Okay? It can be relatively cheap, but you have to get in early. Like I said before, if I did it at 34 versus 35, I would have had a lower rate. Now, if you decide to buy a home, it does take a bit of time to save up for the down payment. and to make sure that you are financially stable prior to. So that goes back into paying off the credit card debts, making sure that you have a zero balance for all of the debt that you may have owed. So when they look at your credit, they can say, okay, they already know how to manage money. We'll be able to loan them that amount. And you'll also have a low interest rate. Now, this is interesting. In 2013, the cost of a middle income American family to raise one child, was $245,340. That's before college, y'all. That's not including tuition. So now, if you live in the urban Northeast, so like in New York, Virginia area, and you earn more than $106,000, that figure becomes $454,890. Sheesh. So the biggest thing is to take the time out to learn about your financial standing, know your credit score, know your goals, know how much you're able to save, how much you're willing to save, and stick to it. Learn how to have the hard conversations with your loved ones about who is able to manage the money better, how much debt is accumulated, and how to knock that down. If you're saving for a house, make sure that all of your debt is taken care of. And if it's not taken care of, have a plan in place to get it taken care of as soon as possible. And let's see. Oh, and have life insurance. Life insurance is important as well. All right, so let's go back. Last thing is a checklist. So eliminate your credit card debt. Establish an emergency fund that is at least 6 months of your annual income. That's a goal. Open and contribute to your retirement accounts. Set financial goals. Create a budget and pay down debt. Get on the same financial page with your partner. Get a last will and testament. Make a living will. Purchase life insurance. Continue to learn the basics of investing and check in regularly. You don't always just assume that because it's in there today that it's going to be there tomorrow, especially if you're dealing with investments, especially if you're dealing with bank accounts that have interest rates. You will get notifications when the rates change, whether it's going up or down. As of right now, a lot of the interest rates for savings and checking accounts are going down. So pay attention to those things. And also consider working with a financial planner. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me at tarakspecializes@gmail.com. You can go to my website, tarakspecializes.com, and visit my IG, Tara K Specializes, and my Facebook, Tara K Specializes. And I thank you guys so much for spending time with me. We're going to learn how to better manage our income together. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.